The myths and realities of the entrepreneurial mindset and Indiana perspective is the topic of the NIIC Ideas at Work event coming up on April 18th. The keynote speaker, a leading U.S. educator and professor of entrepreneurship, is joining us from IU Bloomington. Dr. K, welcome to Insight.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
So what are some key takeaways here that people are going to get out of hearing you speak?
I think one is that the reason I framed around the entrepreneurial mindset is so that everybody that is participating in the event is going to take something away learning about themselves, I think, and questioning whether, in fact, they've got some of this mindset that they haven't tapped into. And that's why I want to explore some of the myths that surround it that I think block people from believing that they can tap into their own entrepreneurial mindset. So I think that's one of the big takeaways for everybody.
I just heard somebody speaking about entrepreneurship that said, you know, if you think it's risky, try being employed in 2017.
How true.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, is that usually some of the biggest fear or the biggest hurdle to get over, is the fact that this really is just as risky or maybe even less risky than what people are used to?
Yeah, I think that's one of them. I think people perceive the risk as I call it the gambler risk. You know, I got to go gamble everything away. And in fact, that's just not true. And again, it's just a myth that's been proliferated out there with other myths. I mean, there's a lot of things people say, well, you need a lot of money to start a business. Well, you need money. You may not need a lot in today's world of technology. And it may be that a Kickstarter program could get you going in a very easy fashion. So I think getting people over some of these old myths that have stuck around for 30 years is one of the big things to open up their own entrepreneurial mindset. I
was intrigued by the idea here on April 18th that this event at the NIIC, or this lunch that you'll be hosting and keynoting, that it also might be good for teams who may be stuck in a rut. And they don't even necessarily have to be starting their own business. They could just be trying to start a new venture inside an already existing business.
Right, exactly. One of my big areas of research and consulting is in the field of corporate entrepreneurship and corporate innovation. So I have weaved that into the talk as well, because I want teams to be able to see some of these aspects of the entrepreneurial mindset even inside of organizations, and what they can do to maneuver and get their ideas to service or get the team to perform better on innovative projects.
So is there a key thing that you find in, obviously you've been teaching this, but probably researching it as well, that leads to the difference between success and failure when it comes to an entrepreneur? Is there one thing or lots of things?
You know, there's lots of things, and it seems like as the decades go on, they change a bit, obviously with technology and our new disruptive age that we're in. But I think that, you know, some of the things that stick around are perseverance, because you've really got to have a passion for your idea, and whether it's inside of a company or outside independently, because I think you've got to persevere through some of the rough spots. It's going to get rough. I mean, it's going to be hard to do many times. And I think the other thing is a willingness to pivot the idea. Some people fall so much in love with their idea, they only see it one way. And yet, when you begin to touch the marketplace, you may very well have to pivot the idea a bit to find the true groove you're supposed to be in. So I think perseverance and being able to pivot are two things that have stood the test of time.
How much has Shark Tank helped or hurt entrepreneurship?
I think it's a dual-edged sword. I think it's helped the interest in entrepreneurship a great deal because it's popularized it. I think in some ways it's hurt because people think, well, all I gotta do is get on a place like Shark Tank and I'll get this money and I'm just gonna be a huge success. And in fact, they're sort of missing the point that there's still a lot of hard work and a lot of basic understanding that have to go behind the idea. I don't think Shark Tank delves in deep enough to show what's really behind the ideas and how much work has gone into it. But in any event, it's a dual-edged sword. I think there's some good things that it's popularized it. I think that's great. It's generated more interest. I just don't want people to take it too seriously. I always say, remember, Shark Tank is a TV show, and it is about the sharks.
Yeah.
Not so much about the ideas.
Good point. All right. Well, Ideas at Work with the NIIC, the Northeast Indiana Innovation Center, that's coming up on April 18th. Eventbrite is where people can go to get the tickets, and if they want to sponsor as well, I understand that is still available. I don't know if you can speak to that, but table sponsors, things like that.
I'm sure it's all available, you know, through the NIIC. I'm sure they'll take anything now. They're really excited about getting this thing going.
Yeah, well, it's going to be good to have you here. If you're interested in learning more, go to niic.net, and we will be right back on Insight.